Alright, so today is October 4th, and I've been continuing doing some plumbing, and I got some sole boards in here. Not quite sure how I want to approach this yet. I don't have these secured down at all. I don't know if I'll just do the like put a screw in each of the outside ends of these boards and maybe a couple of boards on those little ones there, because these need to be able to come up fairly easy. So I might just put a couple screws on the boards on the ends of these and just leave the rest of them so I can pull them out. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I've been plumbing the tanks here. These are going to be the taps that go into this manifold, and down there is going to have a pipe come up here into this manifold here. This is going to be the supply side, and this manifold here is going to be the return side. So we'll have tubes running, or hoses running up here from each of the three tanks. And you'll open the valve on the tank that you want to open, and then open the appropriate valve here. And then this will go down into the pump, and this comes out of the pump. This is the suction side now. They want you to put the pump on the suction side rather than on the pressure side. The thing that happens evidently is if you put the pump over here on the pressure side of the filter, you can emulsify the oil and any water that's in there and make it harder for the filter to remove the water. So you always want to put your pump on the suction side. They also sell a gauge, a vacuum gauge you can put up here. So you can read that vacuum gauge and see if your filter starts plugging just by the vacuum on the system. And then this plumbing here, of course, is going to be the output. So if we need to fill our day tank, we can open the valve down there. Open the appropriate valve here, then open the valve that goes up to the day tank, which I'm not even sure which one I had pegged for the day tank. I guess this one here will go up to the day tank. So then you'd open up this one, and that would turn your pump on, and that would send fuel through the filter up into the day tank. Now, if we want to trim the tank, we can trim the boat by switching fuel from one side to the other. So if we were listing a little heavy on the port side here, we could take fuel out of this tank, run it through the filter, and then send it back to the starboard side tank. Yeah, just by opening the appropriate valve, and it would send it up and over. And what I'm going to do for the returns is this. I'm going to try this anyway. That's my fill line there, or fill fitting there. It's a 1.5 inch fill. I'm going to put this on there with the return line coming in here, and then put a stub pipe up here for the hose to connect for the fill from the deck to the tubing here into the tank. And this is going to be my return line here, so if I'm polishing fuel or transferring fuel or whatever, it'll come back into the tank here. Now they sold true Y fittings, which probably would be better, but I'm thinking with the amount of fuel that we're running here, only 3 gallons per minute, that's not that fast. I'm thinking it's not going to really matter here. Fuel's going to flow into a big enough tube here and then right down into the tank that I don't think it's going to matter. Now this tank, or this fill tap here on the top of this tank, goes to within about 1 inch of the bottom of the tank, so it's not just dropping in on top of the tank, it's going back in the bottom. True of these taps here as well. Now the ones down here are just, of course, open right to the bottom of the tank. So we'll be able to get the bottom of the tank and actually pull any crud off the bottom of the tank, remove any water, sediment, whatever that gets in it with the filter system here before it goes up into the day tank, or just to polish the fuel, just to, circulate the fuel through the tank and give it a good cleaning. Probably better yet would have been to use the fittings back here, because these are lower. But I'm thinking that down here, I'll probably just put a valve on there and plug it, and then if I ever want to take a little sample out of here or drain a little bit out of here, I can do it. See, that's the thing, I don't have one on this side. I'm debating if I should try to put one in or not. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I trust my welding vertically or not to do that, so I may not do that. It would be nice to have one down there, but yeah, no. And you've seen this setup before. This is my setup for pressure testing everything. And we'll probably do that again here. I think this filter is rated at 20 some PSI, so it should certainly handle the, I don't know if it says on here. Working vacuum. 28 inches of mercury, which is 14 PSI or something like that. Yeah, anyway, we won't put nearly that much pressure in it regardless. But yeah, that's that part going. Another thing I've been sitting here wondering about, and I've been reading about at night and looking at videos on the internet and checking out forums on the internet and seeing what people are doing for exhaust systems. And I've got, of course, a couple books on it, and David Guerra's book is probably the best on that, and he talks about doing what I want to do here, which is put a North Sea exhaust on here, which is going to be a horizontal pipe running out both sides of the boat with a T in it. So what we'll have to do is come out of this mixing elbow here, probably with some 3.5 inch tube, or the rubber exhaust hose, and come down into a water lock muffler that's going to sit right down here, and then it'll have to come out the top of the water lock muffler. It have to come up above the water line for sure, and above the the line of the North Sea exhaust line here coming out. You have to do a little gooseneck and then go back into it. Now, it doesn't really matter which way you send the water out of the water lock. I mean, if the water lock is sitting down here, I can send it up, kind of at a 45-degree angle, and then into that T for the North Sea exhaust. One other thing I've been, contemplating or thinking about is getting back in here to get the through hulls for those exhaust fittings. I was thinking about putting an access panel, cutting a panel in there. I kind of hate to cut that stuff, this insulation apart and everything here, but we'll see. I thought maybe about putting a fiberglass tube coming out far enough that I could get to it. But you still got to get back in there to put that through hull in and then connect something to it. Unless it was like a pipe thread fitting, and you could just stick a pipe on there and screw it on, and then clamp it here to a bracket to hold it. That would probably work, but I'm not utterly sure I want to really go with just regular iron pipe there or not. Fiberglass would be the way to do it, but I don't know how you'd attach it to that fitting and then get the fitting attached to the boat, unless you screw the fitting on from the outside of the boat, which would probably work, but not ideal. But anyway, so I've been debating all these things, and I think I'm going to make my own water lock muffler to go down here. They're pretty expensive. There isn't a whole lot to them, and I ordered some epoxy. That's a high temperature epoxy, laminating epoxy. It's a structural grade epoxy, but it's up to like 500 degrees. And they make these water locks out of even plastic. So it doesn't, and I'm pretty sure regular epoxy would have been fine here. But I went ahead and ordered some high temp epoxy so I can build myself a water lock muffler down here. And I'll probably make some of these fittings that I need here out of fiberglass too, like the T and the fittings going into and out of the water lock will be all fiberglass too. And then I'll run some hose here, and it certainly wouldn't hurt to run fiberglass this whole length here, which I may do too. I've got some experience making fiberglass tubes, and it isn't that difficult to do. So I probably wind up making myself some fiberglass parts here. And really they say that's about the best way to go. It's stronger and more heat resistant than plastic. And doesn't corrode, so it should last virtually forever, providing you don't have a water pump malfunction or something in the engine impeller, go out, or a plugged up, water passage or something that you stop raw water cooling to the engine. But we shall see, I guess. But yeah, that's this part done. This only took me, what I thought was going to be an afternoon job or a half-day job. That part only took me 3 days to do. After I redid it, 4 times. And then had to, of course, fill the holes in and repaint this and sand it and repaint it. And, yeah, all sorts of fun. But yeah, I got a couple supports under here and on that side. So this is nice and sturdy now. Actually, those supports don't even need to be there. These 2x6s are strong enough that... And there's an interesting thing. I had some regular pine 2x6s in here. And I had a couple of regular, or a couple of the Douglas fir 2x6s in here. And it was interesting that if you stood on a pine 2x6 and a Douglas fir 2x6, the pine 2x6 bent about 3 inches down, and the Douglas fir, bent down maybe a ½ an inch. So you can tell the difference in the Douglas fir there, which is good. But yeah, I don't know how I'll finish this floor yet. Like I said, I've put a few screws in here and there to the point where it's still relatively easy to get the floor up and out, because you'll need access to some of these things occasionally. Water heater goes down here. The engine starting battery goes over here, so you'll need to have access to those. Yeah, but I don't know, I'll probably wind up just painting the floor. I don't know if I'll put a non-skid on it or not. Maybe wind up putting some of that rubber matting, like that stuff for garages or whatever. That would be that grid type of rubber matting. It would be a good non-slip surface. I don't know, we'll see. I probably didn't need to go with 2x material down here. That's a little overkill, and it cost me, 3/4 of an inch of headroom. I've still got standing headroom in between these. I don't have standing headroom underneath these now, but that's all right. Yeah, yeah, just everything's I spend more time sitting and looking at stuff than I do building anymore. But that's just kind of the way it goes. But I'm happy with the way that is turning out. And of course, these here are my sight gauges, and I'm going to put a couple of straps to hold these down so it's tight up against the tank here. And then you just open these valves, top and bottom, and see how far the fuel goes up. Have marks on here with your capacity, so you can read how much fuel you got, and then close these when you're done. And then this is going to be the vent line that goes up. And they're talking cooler weather coming in here in a couple days, so we will see how that goes. Yeah, and there's the dog. I can't believe how destructive one puppy can be. You're a pretty destructive puppy, aren't you? Yes, you are. You're getting to be a big puppy, aren't you? Yeah, you're a big puppy. Yeah, big and destructive. Fortunately, this screen here was already consumed. All of these holes are grasshoppers. Really, really, really dry last couple years. The grasshoppers have been crazy. And of course the holes down here now are dog holes, but all that down there the dog's been chewing on. And my battery box, I got the first coat of paint on the outside of my battery box. Nothing special, just get it covered up. Alright, well, that'll be my update for, what did I say it was? October 4th.